Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here with Don Wittman from Wittman Technology. And again, the website Wittman, Wittman, technology.com, talking about all the work he does to help people transition, and executives especially. Donald Wittman, please say hello and introduce yourself to our listeners to start.
Good morning. I'm basically a LinkedIn expert. I help people find jobs, companies find people, companies attract new business, and everything to do about using LinkedIn for business. And I, do training, do consulting, and help stuff out. I have a bestseller book on Amazon, Ignite Your LinkedIn Profile, and 3 other top-selling books that I've written, and then several on the way. So I spend a lot of time thinking about LinkedIn and helping people do it. I've trained so far well over 100,000 people who have attended my seminars and webinars. So I kind of have fun doing it.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. And for listeners today, what did you have in mind for us? I know you shared a little with me before the show. What would you like to discuss for today?
I think what's really happened is remote, where everyone's talking about remote work. We have companies that are still trying to get people back. There's been a couple announcements where Amazon wants to get their people back in the office, at least hybrid, by May. JP Morgan's been trying to do it for a long time. Goldman Sachs been trying to do it. But some of the reports are actually showing the opposite is happening.
Really?
Companies are being forced to hire remote workers because they can't find the talent locally. Also, if we go back and look, before the COVID-19 outbreak, remote work was about 4% of the workforce in the United States.
That's it? Oh,
yeah, 4%. That's what.
wow.
Then that was, the number is off, but changes 1% either direction depending on which report you see. But it's plus or 4% plus or minus 1%.
Okay.
2 years ago, it was 16%. As of December 2022, it was 22%. We have several companies now that are predicting that by 2025, that it will go to 36%. Another 12 points. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Mainly the cost. It's commuting costs I'm in the New York tri-state area, so commuting costs are horrendous.
Okay.
And not only that, it's the time. Like for me to get into Manhattan, even though I'm not that far away. Driving into Manhattan is about 45 minutes for me. But to take take public transit back and forth, it's 2 hours each way. So that's 4 hours of your life, plus the cost of the train, the cost of parking, the cost of your car. There's a lot of money involved in commuting. And if you're working from home, you're saving all that money. So depending on where you live, what's the level of your job, it is certainly significantly cheaper to work from home. And also, companies now are looking to move several positions completely remotely. So that's happening. And probably the biggest change that we're seeing is companies are now willing to go out of their area for talent, even senior talent. I was in the IT department when I used to work for a company. I was a chief technology officer, but you'll see that, you can go onto quite a few different sites and see that half the spots for IT talent is remote.
Wow.
Even help desk, which used to be,
Oh, I know.
you have to go up to the person, fix their stuff. There are now tools to do even that remote.
Mm-hmm.
So remote is coming,
Mm-hmm.
and it's coming on strong. Um, and people are enjoying it. It's cheaper. And people spend less time of their precious personal time
Mm-hmm.
commuting. And
True.
what
So true.
one of the things that you can see here is, I mean, I looked up the statistics for commuting, and I think we talked about that a little bit about that a couple broadcasts before, is that the average person in the United States, no
Wow.
geographical area, spends over 100 hours a year. I think it was up to 111, expected to go even higher, in stuck in traffic
Yeah.
a year. And you look at that, and that's a lot of time that's just stuck, just sitting there.
I used to do 2.5 each way to 3.
Right, but if you're moving, it's not so bad. But this
No,
is
no, I'm just saying, like, I just
literally
don't
just
believe in
stuck.
commutes anymore. Yeah, I just can't. I can't.
And that's, and if you look at what else is helping with this, right? If you're not commuting, you're not in your car,
What?
you're not burning gasoline, you're not sitting in
Mhm.
traffic, getting rid of all those pollutants out there.
Yeah.
Some companies are considered part of their going green, because it is much more ESG, that they call it, right?
Mhm.
Uh, so that we can uh, use less carbon,
Uh-huh.
right? Give people a better lifestyle, and they can spend more time with their family, and we don't really care where you are.
True.
I mean, companies have been doing this. You know,
For.
I used to spend time doing work with Cisco as one of our partners, and doing things. And Cisco itself, I mean, most of their workforce is remote, and people are just now seeing how, with a little accommodation, that's possible, and it is a better um, lifestyle for their employees.
Mhm.
They spend more time at home, spend more time with their families, less time commuting, less time
Love it.
playing uh, Go Find Me. And actually,
So true.
it proves, the studies have proven that there is a productivity increase. As much as there's always been arguments now about productivity, there is a very significant productivity increase.
Good.
To give you an idea, is my son works for a company, and they were working from home because of COVID-19. And they basically says, there's so much flu, there's so much other stuff.
Mhm.
We've actually seen productivity increases. And why have everybody go back to the office and start getting sick, because it's a mess here in the Northeast
True.
with the flu, and the RSV, and the low levels of COVID coming out. It's actually more efficient for us to have you work at home.
Mhm.
So that people are taking that, and companies are taking that into consideration, and people working from home are happier. They're less likely to quit and go someplace else.
Mhm.
So all in all, in today's environment, companies are worried about losing their workforce. So there are so many positives working from home in general, that companies need to start to adapt how they look at remote work. And granted, there is uh, some jobs that you have to do it. People like Comcast and some of the other cable companies are trying to not do work from home, because their technicians have to go to the office, have to show up to go
Yeah.
pick up the trucks, this, that, and the other thing, and that it's unfair. But in the end, the benefits of working from home are significant.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I see that growing and growing and growing. One of the, and actually I spent some time looking at articles on and research for working at home. There are actually sites now that the top 100 companies to look for doing remote work, for getting remote work. They're actually listing them when you do a Google search, and it's a very significant. I mean, a lot of them are, a lot of them are, companies like real estate, like recruiters and other stuff, where you're really very independent workers, and a lot of your work is commission based, so you have an incentive to work pretty hard. But even still, I mean, the legal department, paralegals seems to be one of those things that's really becoming a work from home job. Copywriters, marketing people that do marketing and things and stuff like that. So there's a growing and growing group of positions now that can do work from home. I know my neighbor who works for Amazon. She's going to go back to the office. If they're going to tell her to go back to the office full time,
wow.
she's basically going to give them the flying fickle finger of fate. But
how's
a
that
lot
going
of
to work
people,
out? Do you think they're going to find someone? I mean, work is work, right? So someone's going to want that job, unless she's that valuable to the company. Then they may make an exception, right?
well, she's a high-end project manager,
Okay.
and they are in extreme demand, and they really don't need to be in the office.
Okay. Okay. Good. So she
So
has options.
right, I mean, during COVID-19, she I think she changed jobs twice.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I mean, before that, she worked for Oracle and some other companies. But some of the companies, again, they scaled down because they didn't need the people, and the people just jumped to other stuff. So, but she's a high tech worker, right? The high tech workers aren't having a problem with it. So it's really, I think it's just going to grow and increase the amount of work from home. I mean, the previous, my son is a perfect example. He worked his previous company. He said normally he worked 40 to 50 hours a week, when he went to the office and things like that. Most of the time was like 45, maybe was his average. But as soon as they went to work from home, they closed all the offices and they ticked off everybody because they gave him a 10% pay cut. But they were having them work 60 hours a week from home.
Wow.
Which, my son and some of the other people in the company begrudgingly did it, but they said, okay, when it came to raise time,
Yeah.
guess what? They weren't the raises for working 60 hours a week, and people jumped. And he got laid off, but other people said, this is nuts. I can make, they didn't pay. Their pay was okay, it wasn't terrible, but and it's still doing it now. People now actually are more, if they're people working from home, are typically now more willing to put in extra hours when necessary, as long as they're not abused.
Yeah.
To get stuff done rather than commuting in the city, because you're losing, and 2 hours to 4 hours a day of your time commuting, and that people appreciate not having to go into the office. So I think it's going to keep growing, and the company's fighting it. What does it cost to have a desk in an office?
Yeah.
Right. It's most office buildings are at least $25 a square foot. Right. Most cubes are 80 square feet. So basically, it's, and then you need to double that for the space that you're renting because of facilities and aisleways and things like that. So they're saving thousands of dollars just on office space.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing it. So the economics tell you that working from home is, if properly done, should work. I mean, the current thing, and if you go back to what's been happening in the last 10 years, there's been lots and lots of outsourcing to different consultants doing work, particularly to India and the Philippines and stuff like that. What's the difference between outsourcing to India
Mm-hmm.
or insourcing to someone working at home?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably easier because, you can get on, most of the people in the States are in the same time zone.
Mm-hmm. True.
So I think a lot of it is being, this push to go back to the office is being overhyped.
Yeah.
And it may be true that some of the people the younger people need to go in to get the culture and things like that. But all in all, the research material that I've been looking at basically says the companies are more productive, making more money by having people work from home if the job is able to be done at home, and the companies have the facilities to do the meetings, like, not to name names, but Teams and Zoom and some of the other stuff. I mean, it'd be nice if some of those products were upgraded a little bit more, where you can do multi-screens and things like that. But right now it's pretty functional. I think over the next 5 years, Zoom and Teams and WebEx and a few others are going to become multi-screen for the home user as well.
Yeah.
And people say, well, I don't have a multi-screen, blah, 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 blah. I only have a portable. But it's been proven, even quite a number of years ago, that multi-screen systems are far more productive for people. So, if people are going to permanently work from home, and they can become as productive in their office. Like my son has a multi-screen system upstairs. He's an IT person.
Mm-hmm.
They say there's a 30% productivity increase by going to multi-screens. So it pays to have the multi-screen systems at home for remote workers. So all that's going to start happening. The productivity is going to go up from home, from what all the research has. And again, it's better for our environment.
Yeah.
And we don't have to spend so much money on roads.
It's so true.
So, but the companies, from what I see, the companies that are becoming overzealous about going back in the office for jobs that can absolutely be done from home, now people are going to start to leave. There's it still, no, the JOLTS report is still at 11 million. For high demand employees, I don't see them going back to the office if they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
The 76%, the survey done by LinkedIn said 76% of the people that are working from home don't want to go back into the office.
I agree.
And less than 20% said that they're okay with doing a little bit of hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but for the most part, they want to work from home.
Yeah.
So the numbers are telling us that that's the place to be. And we're seeing that the work, some companies, like I think it was Google who announced a while ago, and I could be wrong, says, well, we're going to change your salary based on where you live if you're going to work from home. Well, that's not working either.
Oh no, that doesn't sound good. Wow.
No, it doesn't sound good, but it's not working.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
problem is that if you're in an in-demand job, you're working for a company in California, yes, you don't have to, you can deduct the California taxes or the New York City tax part, and that stuff is reasonable. But you're based on the productivity numbers, there's no reason to do that. And you have to find the talent. I think, Google, Amazon, and Facebook, who've laid off all these people, are going to end up rehiring people remotely because those people now have jobs. And we're still seeing the last job report basically was one of the best in the last year. right? It was only 186, I think it was 186,000 new applicants new unemployment applications last week, which is the lowest in over a year. So, all is saying that people are layoffs and stuff like that, and you see now, who is it? Fidelity just announced they're going to hire 10,000 people. So for the people who run their companies well, they're now saying they're going to be rehiring. So, companies that overhired in the COVID-19, granted they wanted to get rid of some of the people, but the statistics say they're going to hire those people back within a year or so. So part of it was financially wasted time, and it gave other companies opportunity to get good talent. And some companies are using, that for an excuse to do a reduction in staff to help their, quote unquote, their stock price. But over time, it looks that those bumps are short-lived, and the people are going to be even harder to find. The JOLTS numbers aren't going down, which is the JOLTS number is the U.S. Labor Department's survey of outstanding jobs that are open. So, if you're balancing this out here, it looks like hiring is going to go on for quite some time. It's going to be reasonably aggressive. And, so anyway, with that. The other thing I was going to try and do quickly is there's been some laws passed in some of the East and West Coast for equal pay. And a report on the outcome of that is very negative. Granted, people have gotten equal pay, which is really good. The downside of what's happened is they're not the pay increases aren't really performance based. Mm-hmm. Right, a lot of it's flat. They're basically saying that 6%, the people are getting a 6% less increase because they have to pay everybody the same. And over time, what's going to happen if you if you have some superstars that are very high performers and you're paying everybody the same increase every year, you now have some people who are now out of whack, those high performers, and they're going to start leaving. Yeah. Where before you were able to compensate them better than previous. And they're saying that that's going to start happening soon. So there's going to be more churn. You're going to see some of your really high performers start leaving. Now, I just want to, just for the record, I am for equal pay for equal performance and things like that. I think the problem here is that the lawyers are now getting in the way of companies providing performance-based pay, which is appropriate. If someone's a superstar, regardless of what your grade level is, you're going to want to pay them more. Yeah. So equal, the way the thought was is equal pay for equal performance is supposed to work. Now you're saying is, we're going back to, it's not equal pay for equal performance, it's equal pay based on your position level. Okay. Which is not really what the intent was. Mm-hmm. So that's causing quite a few companies problems, or else they're having to do changes. That's why you're seeing the migration, part of the migration from employees to consultants, because that's the only way companies are now able to pay their high performers in order to keep them is making them basically contingent employees. Mm-hmm. But anyway, a bad news day.
No, it's not so bad.
But that, overall, what's happening is this is everyone's fighting these changes and what's going on, and that fighting is causing churn. There was the guy on CNBC last week who basically says, he's expecting 85% of the people to consider looking for a new job because they're unhappy with the environment they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it still is unhappy with their current salaries. I mean, some of the companies who have have a lot of high performing employees have had to go around and reevaluate everyone's salaries based on the public market to keep people from leaving.
Yeah.
It used to be, when there was a lot of employees out there, there were more employees than jobs rather than more jobs than employees. GE at one point, some of their divisions says, we expect a 25% turnover a year with our employees. That's natural. Now, if you get 25% turnover employees, you can't find replacements. So companies' attitude and people's attitude toward hiring people, companies are now beginning to protect their employees, and they're having to make considerations for where are they in the whole scale of their type of position of what is everybody else being paid out there.
Yeah.
And what's happening too is that areas that were a programmer in New York and California get paid a lot more than a programmer in Podunk, Iowa. Right.
True.
So not that much less. I was surprised how much they do. But what's happening is the salary levels are now coming back into a line because they can get people to work remotely.
Yeah.
And I think that's happening in a lot of different places for talent, particularly since there are so many job openings and companies are so desperate trying to find them that they're having to readjust their salaries to a countrywide view of compensation. So that's so I probably shouldn't have done all the research, but it was certainly intriguing going how this information is coming out.
Well, thank you, Don Wittman, for being here. Remind us of how we can reach you, please.
Yes, you can get me on donthelinkedinguy.com or don@whitmantechnology.com. You can connect with me with my LinkedIn profile, which is Donald J. Wittman, and Wittman is Wittman. And I'd love to chat with you if you want to have a discussion about what's going on in the job market, how I can possibly help you, and just chat what's going on.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being here, for joining us. I apologize. I have a bad cough. I keep coughing. I gotta get a cough drop. You have a great day and a fantastic week, and looking forward to next week. Enjoy it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.